Hi, we are joined this week by Michelle Thorne. And Michelle and I have known each other for over 10 years. We've even worked together. I just really wanted you to come in and talk to us about some of the things that surround you. So welcome.
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit about, who you are, what you're up to these days?
So yes, these days, apart from lockdown life, I've my background's a little bit in the open source movement. So I really care a lot about all things open. Although at the moment or in the last few years, had a bit of a crisis of purpose with that movement, and I'm now thinking a lot more about sustainability, and particularly sustainability of technology and the internet. And so those are the topics that I'm interested in, and I'm working on them at the Mozilla Foundation and also on numerous little side projects.
And I think we'll talk about those numerous little projects. So you have brought us three different things that we'll talk about. So what is your first thing?
So this first thing is an old thing. So this must have come from like the 60s, and it is a running t-shirt from my grandmother. So my grandmother was an athlete and a runner in a time when not that many women were running, especially like these big public runs. And so she wore this like crazy. And she inspired my mother, which was her daughter-in-law, to also, go run and to just be like out and active. And then I've inherited this, and I love running, and I now wear this all the time. And I love this thing for just like this generational connection. And now the grandmother and my mother have both died, but I still have this like object that they wore. And it kind of gives me some sort of like confidence, like physical confidence. And it's still in excellent condition after all those years.
Is there something about that confidence that you think is necessary for a woman still today to do sports? Do you think there's an element of the grounding of that object that is, we'll try to find somewhere, somehow, still today?
I think so. So when I was younger, I played a lot of sports. And I was also nerdy. I mean, both of those things are still true. And I think one thing that sports, especially for women and young girls, they give you a confidence in your body that I think in a lot of ways, women are often like having like question that, and not that we didn't question it or have troubles, but it gave you a kind of power, like, you can be fast and strong and really body aware in a way that I think has helped me in professional life, like, in a meeting or hosting an event or other ways that you have to kind of carry yourself, and to be familiar with that strength you have at a real physical level. And so, that like any kind of physical activity is amazing. So finding things that you love and make you feel good is great. But yeah, so for me, that's been and running has been one of those. So yeah, that's a little bit.
What is your second object?
All right, so the second object, this is a textile heavy collection. There's a pair of trousers that I made together with my husband, Peter. Well, I didn't make them, we'll get to that part. And with a friend, Cecilia, who's a fashion designer. And the idea with them is that we wanted to make a pair of trousers that would like do everything with us. Like, we love to travel, so we wanted to like pack light and have something that like was really flexible. Then, you could do meetings in it, you could go hike a mountain in it, you could like spill coffee on it, and it could just be a pair that lasts for a long time and kind of complements your life. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to make them because, I've never seen behind the scenes of what it takes to put a garment together. When we decided to make them, then not just for ourselves, but then to even do like a Kickstarter and to sell them. And that was also really interesting then to start to see like, what does it take to make something that's really specific to what you like, and then also consider what do other people actually like and want to use. And so even that being introduced I guess I knew a little bit about that iterative process in an intellectual way, but then to be introduced to it in a really like practical way, like everyone's like, I want deeper pockets. And so we're like, okay, we got to make the pockets deeper. So I love that object because I do wear it and use it all the time. And what it's taught me about, working with others, trying to make a creative, like trying to bring something out in the world a little bit.
How many did you make, and when was this? What period of time was this?
So this was, I guess, 2015 to 16, and we made about 150 pairs. And now we only have like 5 left. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, I think you, Alex, were a great like kind of mentor and peer supporter of, it was great to have thoughtful people like, I don't know, giving advice and testing and all that stuff, right?
I just always said you shouldn't call them plants. That's all I remember ever saying. Do you think that there's something about that particular process that either has real parallels with your work online and your work in open source, or are they very different things for you?
No, I think that's really related, even though it doesn't have like a direct digital component. It was, I should say, like the fabric it's made out of is this like performance fabric. So it has all these like extra features. And I think this idea of like, how to think about the objects in your life and what sort of like affordances do they have, whether they're like digital or physical. And it's interesting to then sometimes new technology comes about that makes them like state change in what they're able to do. And actually textiles in this moment where it's affordable and accessible to do new things with them. And that's kind of interesting and fun. And then to like play and experiment with friends, so including my husband, and then with this friend Cecilia, who worked a lot in open source fashion, like, to say like, hey, let's try out a crazy idea, and the joy of collaborating and making something with other people. Yeah, that, I guess that's an ongoing thread in my life.
And speaking of that, what is your third object today?
So I have my Kindle. This is the third Kindle I've owned, but it's in a Kindle case that has outlasted all the Kindles I've owned. It's a Dodo case that I got like 10 years ago. And it's pretty indestructible except for like some wear and tear on the side. And so, yeah, I picked all 3 objects on things that I like use or wear like every day or very often. And the Kindle is interesting for me because it's like your window into like the world's library, basically. And you can like, with something so small and light, you have like, almost infinite number of like books and texts to look at. But then it's this connected device that just like, it's proprietary, it crashes, it goes obsolete, it breaks. It's like actually kind of shitty in a lot of ways. But somehow this case is way more robust and resilient than that device has ever been. So for me, it's a nice object that's like got these kind of, tensions between.
And do you think it's also a reminder of the fragility of some of those systems? Because as someone who reads a lot of books, most of them are not on Kindle.
Yeah.
They're not on digital mediums of, I have to borrow them from the British Library. I have to go and, really seek out that knowledge, because actually the world's knowledge up to a certain point.
Yeah, totally.
And so do you, what do you think that says about how people are building digital services these days?
Yeah, I mean, I guess ideally this would be, what I don't love about it is that although the Kindle's like one of the, most usable ebook readers in the world, it's like, it is incredibly limiting, like, right, as you said. So I guess the vendor lock-in sucks. The lack of real choice, the basically 2-3 year life cycle of these devices sucks. And yeah, like you're accessing texts, like I've accessed like public domain texts that are like 200-300 years old. And it's like those texts are somehow robust in some virtual way that this device never will be.
And do you think that people, I mean, a lot of what you've talked about through your three objects is also about longevity somehow, and cross-generational experiences, whether it's generations of people or generations of devices. Do you think that people are aware enough around you of these issues? Do you think that's something that is building up somehow? As we get older, as a community of practitioners, we get older with these tools, with this environment.
I mean, definitely getting older. So like, that's one of those things where you're like, you know, how many systems am I going to change from the, you know, and how many Kindle, like if in the course of 10 years, I've had 3 Kindles, like, and I plan on continuing to read like digitally, like, you know, by the time I die, I might have quite a pile of Kindles. And so I do think there is like that, maybe just the longer you are around on this planet, the more you see some of that, you know, wastefulness or lack of good practices. And appreciate the things that actually do stand the test of time. But I also think it's not just generational. I do think there's like, I mean, I get a lot of motivation and energy from like a younger generation taking a stronger stand for the climate and for sustainable stuff, in a way that maybe in my like internet frenzy generation, we were part of some of the faster cycles more, even if, you know, consciously are able to have a choice in it or not. We were much faster. We were in a spin more. But maybe we're going like, you know, actually this meat space has something to offer us, and that there are things, for example, I'm learning in lockdown life, like I'm finding myself being drawn to practices that have been around for hundreds of years, like baking and mending and painting. It's like, these are actually skills that are known and have established themselves over hundreds of years. And there's different like traditions and different ways, and even ways to make it like, you know, keep innovating in it. But, you know, there's a lot to already build on in terms of this, knowledge. So yeah, something about that is kind of calling to me, at least in this moment.
Well, thank you for sharing your objects and your perspective with us. And I hope we meet again and meet space soon. Thanks.